At one point in my life, happiness was fleeting. We always think there's something better, something different, but there's not. Life is so good, man. And it took me 50 years to realize that. You just said you're surrounded by a great team. You're in this beautiful home. You're doing your podcast. You're selling your book, right? Man, I've done some and accomplished some things I never would have dreamed of. It's not even about that. I mean, it's more about I can eat every single day. I have a home that is pretty comfortable, and things like that. And man, I am so grateful. I am so grateful to just have a day that I enjoy. And so, but it still takes work to recognize that.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Finding Good podcast. Here we dive deep into conversations with remarkable people who have found success in life despite all of life's myriad challenges and found good on the other side. Based on 3 tenets defined in my best-selling memoir, Finding Good, these individuals have been positively selfish, surrounded themselves with good people, and more than anything, done their part to make this world a better place. My name is Mike Thompson, and this is Finding Good. Welcome back to the Finding Good podcast. I'm your host, Mike Thompson. Here we have conversations with remarkable people, and my definition of purpose and meaning in life is based in 3 tenets that I've developed over the course of my cancer journey and my addiction story. And I believe to live every day intentionally, you've got to do 3 things. First and foremost, be positively selfish. Second, surround yourself with good people. And third, and most importantly, do your part to make the world a better place. My guest today is someone who embodies those 3 tenets probably better than anybody I know. He's a friend. He's an entrepreneur. He's an athlete. Above all, he's just an incredible human being. And I want to preface this to the listeners and say that I try to keep these conversations to about an hour, so it's easily digestible for you. But this is one of those conversations where I think we might go far beyond that. So excited to have him here. My guest today is none other than Brad Womack.
And I really appreciate that intro. I've been anticipating this conversation because any conversation with you is a good one. And so thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Coming from you, that just means the world. I think the world of you.
Likewise.
And I want to emulate what you've done as an athlete, as an entrepreneur. But really quick, I just want to talk about the news that I read just a few days ago that after decades of work,
right,
you've sold the hospitality business that you and your brothers and your partner Jason have exhausted yourselves in, and
man.
You just sold the company. How's that feel?
We did. I'll tell you, it feels exciting and terrifying at the same time, I think it goes without saying that after, as you mentioned, 23 years of very, very, very hard work, I'll say this, it was a hospitality company. And I've always said, I would put hospitality against any career out there, meaning as far as the grind and the difficulty of the grind. And trust me, I'm not giving myself a pat on the back. The only reason I'm bringing that up is after over 2 decades of that, it feels really, really good to celebrate a win, no matter how big or small. And so, and it also felt really good that somebody looked at our concepts as a way of saying, hey, this is a really attractive purchase. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And our ideas and the calculated decisions and the hard work. And so that was very exciting. The terrifying part is I need to go to work again.
You're retired. You're, as you say, you're unemployed.
Yeah, man, I am unemployed, and that doesn't sit well with me. I made myself a promise so we sold in May of 24. And I promised myself that no matter what, I was going to force myself to take off the rest of the year, so that's 6 months, contemplate, reflect, all of that good stuff, and frankly, look forward to the future. Well, here we are, and it's January of 25, and I need to get something going for sure.
Just because you have that desire, that drive to do something, to be a part of something, to work hard.
Buddy, I just want to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I really do. And I'm not looking at anything else other than fulfillment. And so for whatever reason, for me, that means going to work on a daily basis. I don't care what that job is, and so, but I just want to work. I want to feel fulfilled.
I've known you for more than a decade.
Yes, sir. Which is crazy to me, by the way.
It's crazy to think about how long we've known each other as friends. We'll get into this a little bit. I don't want to put you into the Bachelor box.
Sure.
But
let's go, man. I jumped in head first into that box. So.
Much of the world knows Brad as the 11th season of The Bachelor, the only two-time Bachelor.
Right.
You were, it was controversial that you did not select Deliver the Rose on the first season.
Yes, sir.
And to me, for what it's worth, I know the Bachelor Nation probably wanted that resolution of having the Bachelor, especially one as remarkable as Brad, to give that rose to one of those girls. But at the same time, the conflict in my mind of being on The Bachelor is, you got how many women do they start with?
So the first season was 25. The second season was 30. I don't know why they did that. Maybe to give myself a better chance.
I mean, the odds of you finding your perfect match of 25 pre-selected women, that never, I could never reconcile that in my brain.
I agree with that.
And so what I really appreciate about you as a friend, but then what I noticed on The Bachelor is your authenticity, and that you don't sway away from the things that are important to you. And with your season on The Bachelor and knowing that like your personal life, your personal story was out there, they brought Chad on to confuse the women at some point, your twin brother. What was that like going from being just a bar owner, a Carmack Concepts founder?
Sure.
And if you're a longtime Austinite, you remember Chuggin' Monkey and Dizzy Rooster and Dogwood and very celebrated spots like that were, for me, mainstays of visiting when I was in early years of college age and then got into the fundraising realm. It seemed like one of your establishments was always supporting a cause that I was a part of. So I knew that was a big part of you giving back, but was it always your goal, whether it's a Bachelor or as a founder of Carmack, to invest in this company and then one day sell it?
It's, that's a great question. And so as far as Carmack Concepts goes, no, frankly, that was not the goal. It was, at the time, 4 of us. It was my twin brother, my little brother, and Jason Carrier. And I think you mentioned those guys. Thank you for mentioning them.
Of course.
When we first got in the business, we knew nothing else but just to work, you know, and it sounds wild because we didn't have these big dreams or goals. It was, hey, we've got a pretty good idea. Let's see if we can bring it to fruition, conceptualize this one business, and see what happens. And then the snowball kind of started rolling, right?
What was the first?
So the first with all of us together is Chuggin' Monkey.
Yep.
Yeah, and I say this so humbly, man, for whatever reason, as soon as we opened the doors, it just skyrocketed. And I don't know if it was, we've got a third guest. I like this guy. I don't know if it was because, we were bartenders by trade, and we're not the best businessmen, but I do think we're some of the more hospitable guys out there.
I couldn't agree with that more.
I appreciate that. And again, not a pat on the back. It's just one of those things that we genuinely love serving our customers. And we learned that growing up in the South with my grandmother. My mother taught us manners and, come one, come all into your home. Anyway, without sounding like...
Please and thank you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Keep your manners with you.
And absolutely. And genuinely appreciated every single customer. And I think that was felt. And so anyway, to answer your question, it was never this thing, hey, let's build multiple concepts, package this thing up into a package, put a bow on it and sell it one day. It's just, let's do what we love and see how this thing pans out. And thank God we did have a business model of, we wanted to open a different business every calendar year. And so that happened for 4 or 5 years. And then we didn't have the manpower. And frankly, we didn't have the capital. We didn't have investors. I'm really proud of that. And so, yes, it limited.
Self-grown, self-start.
All of it, yes, sir.
Incredible.
And I appreciate that, man, because we don't come from anything. And so anyway, it was just a way we constantly reinvested in the businesses. I'm going back to your question to answer it. We never had this big dream of selling. And frankly, we weren't looking to sell when we were approached by the group that made us the offer. And it was the first time, again, after 23 years, we looked around at each other. At the time, I was 50, maybe 51. And because it started in January of 23, those negotiations take a while, of course.
due diligence and
absolutely,
all that. Yep.
man. You know, it stings a little bit when they start looking at the numbers actually and start beating up your business
Everything's
model.
out there.
Like, hey, man, you came to us. I thought we were attractive, you know. And it's almost like being asked to the dance and then told, no, I don't want to take you after all. But anyway, and I'm kind of joking, but that's a long-winded way of saying, you know, no, we weren't even looking to sell, but we did have a very serious conversation. You know, Chad and I, my twin brother, we were in our 50s at the time. Jason was approaching 48, 49, and there was a big issue with trying to stay relevant in that business. We had lost our way a little bit. We weren't, I didn't want to do the late nights anymore, and it just seemed like a perfect time to sell. And so that's a long-winded way of saying, no, we were never, ever kind of, you know, they say keep your eye on the prize. We didn't have a prize. We just really enjoyed working, and thank God it worked out.
How did COVID affect this decision?
Well, COVID didn't affect the decision at all. But I tell you, COVID at the time was the most catastrophic thing we've ever dealt with.
Just like no patrons couldn't go anywhere. You had to shut down your service.
Buddy, it was, I got to tell you, man, and I am not a financial guy at all. But whenever people tell you to plan for the worst, I learned my lesson, plan for the worst, because it's hard to describe the feeling when revenue and income literally stops. It stops. And we still had to pay rent. We still had to pay some of our upper management, our executive management, because they were so good, we didn't want to lose them, you know? And so we didn't take a paycheck for a single year. For an entire year, Chad, Jason, and I didn't take a single paycheck, you know? And so...
just to make sure that the business would endure.
Well, of course. Well, we didn't have it. I mean, we didn't have the money. You know, trust me, man, I would have loved to have taken a check.
I'd love to get paid for the business that I started.
This isn't a Boy Scout move, man. I'm not trying to sound like a good guy. We didn't have the income. And so, but again, you know, just plan for the very, very, very worst. That's the best piece of advice I could give anybody. But did it affect the decision to sell? No, because thank God above, we made it through COVID. It was very difficult. It taught us to be better businessmen and actually look at our P&Ls for once instead of just saying, we're just bar guys. We're okay.
Sure.
You know, and so actually taught us how to run a business. And so in a weird way, I'm kind of grateful for COVID. But no, to answer your question, it didn't affect that decision. It was more of the hey, I think it's just time. I think we've run our course. We exited, in my humble opinion, at the perfect time. Numbers were still really good across the board with our venues. I think the purchaser got a really good deal, and I'm happy for all parties involved.
Well, as someone who's been a patron and a beneficiary of your creation, biggest congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you, man.
I know you've worked your asses off to make it what it was, and you mentioned that you love it, and that's part of the reason why you got into the hospitality business, is that you just love making people happy. But as you know, I believe in being whole first.
Yeah.
You can't give 100% unless you are 100%. And I think this is a perfect segue into understanding how you, Sir Brad Womack, stay positively selfish. What do you do every day to wake up and make sure that Brad is whole, so that Brad can go out and, whether it's a Carmack Concepts, whether it's working as a consultant, whatever endeavor you have next, what do you do to make sure that you can face the day as the most perfect version of yourself?
Man, I have to tell you, and thank you for that question. The positively selfish is something I haven't heard in those specific terms until we discussed this before this podcast. Yeah. And I love that term. And I will readily admit I've struggled with being positively selfish until about a year ago. And it was one of those things because maybe I was always taught or just assumed that you give everything that you have to either your business, I fell very short with personal relationships. I'll admit that all day long. But your colleagues, meaning employees, your customers, and everything like that, right? And frankly, I think for the past couple decades, I lost a little bit of myself because I was giving it all away. And I made a very concerted effort around the time I turned 50. And I hate to admit, I'm 52 now, which is insane.
You don't look or act 52, my friend. Congratulations.
I definitely don't act 52. In fact, my girlfriend might tell you act 12 at times. But
forever young.
Forever young. I like it. Or forever immature. You know, who knows? But No, but I made a very concerted effort because I do believe being unapologetically positively selfish is key to my personal growth. And I adopted that without making apologies. And so what do I do? Physical fitness is a big thing, big component to
And it
me.
shows. I
Well, I
mean, your
appreciate that.
physique is just
Well,
remarkable.
look at you, man. You get out there and work every day too,
I like you believe that every day has to have some sort of physical activity for
Sure.
me to be 100%. But even when I met you, you were still fit, but
sure.
you were lean and just by objective standards, you were in good shape. But what I've seen you do now lately, especially with this hybrid athlete craze, is
Sure.
to me, you look like you're stronger than ever. You're 52 and you look
Thank
like
you.
you're 36.
Well, thank you.
You are running, so you haven't lost your endurance. In fact, it's only increasing, and we'll
Sure.
talk about that a little bit more.
Okay.
But it seems to me that the iron is as hot as it's ever been, fitness-wise.
It is. I have this newfound fire, man, and I'll tell you why. Age is a real thing, and I'd be lying if I told you that I don't think about mortality. And granted, by all definitions, I'm still relatively young. Okay,
Yes.
I'm not putting myself in the grave by any means, but mortality is a very real thing to me, and so I love life, Mike. I love life, and the reason I'm bringing that up and saying it so emphatically is I feel grateful to be here. And I'm going to be very honest with you. And I don't want to be dark, but there are days that, and there was a big period in my life that I might not even want to be here. Does that make sense? And we can talk all day long about it. And so what I told you before as a friend conversation, physical fitness to me works as an antidepressant. It works as a fuel source for productivity, which I need to feel productive every single day. I'm a blue collar guy by nature. I like to work. And so that's part of my working,
Your work ethic is impressive.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Well, I got to tell you, man, and again, it's not an all shucks thing, but where I come from, small town, right?
Yep.
And when you got out of high school, you either go to college or you get a blue collar job. That was the only thing to do, or military,
Right?
And which I revere military personnel. I chose the hard work, the job, and I went to the work in the oil fields. I did that for 10 years, and the only reason I'm bringing that up, which I do often, is out there you are judged by your work ethic. And I really care what people think of me. And so damned if I'm not going to hold my own, and so I just learned to work really hard. And so anyway, fast forward to now I'm 50. We just established I'm not employed anymore, and so I need to do something. Yeah, I know, right? And so I need to do something so it feels really good to suffer a little bit and make myself sweat and feel good.
You just sold the business.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a huge accomplishment after 23 years of hard work there.
Thank you.
Physical fitness wise, your goals. What do you feel is your biggest accomplishment up to this point? I know you've done the Crucible Challenge. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'll tell you, man. That's by far my biggest accomplishment, in my opinion. Only because, so it's ran by actual active and retired Navy SEALs.
It's Mark Devine.
Commander Mark Devine, and the guy's just salt of the earth. I mean, if you can only imagine.
Yeah.
Right. And in business and in his military career. I don't know if you've done research, but he had a brewery at one time, a restaurant. I mean, the guy's very much an entrepreneur. And so just lives life at its very fullest every single day. Anyway, he started the Kokoro camp for SEALs for military guys, Navy guys that actually had SEAL contracts. And so it was a training ground strictly for military personnel to get them prepared for Hell Week.
The same training that the Navy SEAls go.
Same exact training.
Yeah, like buds.
It's buds.
Incredible.
I mean, it's the same exact thing. And so they had such a success rate, a big success rate, that they opened it up to civilians. And the one thing that they said, and they make no bones about it, when you go out there, you're not going to be coddled. I mean, it's the real deal. You fly out to Temecula, California, you're in full fatigues, and it's 53 hours. You don't sleep a wink. And it is the exact, what do you call it? crucibles or whatever you call it, in order of what those guys go through during Hell Week. Now, granted, it's only 53 hours. Hell Week is 7 days.
Right.
So, but
it's a small microcosm of what the SEALs actually go through. But it still sounds incredibly challenging. What's the success rate of something like that?
It hovers around 26-27%.
So a quarter of the people that do it finish. And you finished?
I did.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that, man. My class, we showed up, 16 of us showed up, 6 of us finished. It was the coldest Kokoro on record. It was 38 degrees and raining, and they still had us in the Pacific Ocean.
You know I hate cold weather.
Oh, so. I know, man. Well, who doesn't? I mean, Jesus, you're human. But anyway, long story short, that was a profound experience only because, again, I think we can all do anything physically that we train for. I really do. I think you can. Mentally is another story. And I needed and still need to know that my mind is as strong as I would like it to be. And so that was a good, good little notch on the belt saying, hey, man, I accomplised this. And
my personal story of overcoming cancer and all that. Man. And I remember you mentioned a few minutes ago about not wanting to live or at least considering what life would be like if you weren't living it.
Sure.
And I remember telling my mom, it's in the book. For those of you who haven't read it yet, my memoir, Finding Good, just reached 10,000 copies sold. So if you're listening at home, it really is a great read. I know I'm biased, but
congrats, by the way.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
That was a big accomplishment professionally for me, but
sure.
I really wanted people to understand what I felt during that time. And I remember this one episode is how I opened the book. I woke up during a surgery that they were removing an infection, and I was awake while they finished the surgery.
Wow.
And when I came to 3 days later, they sedated me again, and I didn't wake up for a few days after that. And I remember riding on this, my jaw was wired shut. I had a tracheotomy coming through my throat, drains and wires and tubes all over my body. And my mom noticed that I was awake after, this is 3 weeks after the big facial reconstruction and 3 days after the infection surgery that I was awake for.
Right.
And she asked how I was feeling. And I had this little whiteboard, dry erase board that had my nurse's name, my medications on there. And then at the bottom, it had those emojis of the smiling face and then the frowning face to rate my pain. And I just crossed the line through the bottom of them and I said, just let me die. And
Jesus
it was
Christ.
at that moment that my mom, having that person around me to keep me going.
Yeah.
And she, I've shared this in other podcast episodes as well. She brought this crate onto the foot of my bed, and it was over 700 letters from my classmates at Anderson High School that had written me that my mom was waiting to share with me until after the surgery to say, you've made it, to keep fighting through this hard stuff, and you'll live beyond it. And that obviously wasn't, I'm not sharing that story to trump what you've been through at all. But in that moment, who was around you to keep you going, to get to the point where you are now, to be able to sell the business, to do something like the Kokoro camp? Obviously, you've got a bunch of new endeavors coming up that I know you're excited about, but
Sure.
You and I have talked about this. Life is amazing and we love living it, but we've also experienced those moments when we didn't want to.
Sure.
Second tenet, surround yourself with good people.
Yes, sir.
Who are those people for you?
I'm going to answer your question, I promise. But I just want to say, man, I appreciate you sharing that story. I've always thought very highly of you. I think you're a phenomenal human being, and I mean that. And
feelings mutual.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you. And I'm not saying this to get this turned around back on me. To hear that, because I've been low in my life before. I talk very openly about it. I can't fathom being that low where you're waking up during a surgery, wondering if the surgery is even going to be effective or not. I can't even pretend to know how you are feeling. But for what you've done physically, and just as a human being, supporting the cause, selling 10,000 copies very, very rapidly, and that's only going to increase. It's a remarkable feat of human strength and tenacity. And so that is what I was looking for by doing the Kokoros and things like that. I'll answer your question now, but I just wanted to give you credit.
Thank you, man.
I'm not
Coming
going to
from
let
you,
that get passed over.
I don't like blowing smoke up people's asses, and I
Well,
don't like when people do it to me. But
Sure.
I know that you mean that, and coming from you, that just means the world, Brad.
Well, I do mean it.
Yeah, you're one of my heroes, and to have your hero tell you that you're impressive is it's a great feeling.
Well,
so thank
impressive is an understatement, and I wish I had half the strength. I'll leave it at that. I mean that. As far as the people around me, my twin brother, you know, he and I struggle with the same afflictions. Again, I've been very open with all of this and diagnosed with bipolar. I've struggled with it for over 20 years.
I didn't know that.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm very open about that. And so there were times I was on medication.
Not anymore.
No,
Incredible.
and well, because I do things that you would define as positively selfish.
There you go.
And it helps mitigate those things or the highs and lows better than any medication out there. I refuse to take medication.
Keeps you between the poles.
Absolutely, it does. And so anyway, the thing about Chad, man, he struggles too, and to have somebody, you know, that you can talk to that you know for a fact that dude doesn't want anything from me. That dude does not gain or lose anything from me by simply being a sounding board and or having an ear, having my ear that he can talk to. You
It's
know?
incredible.
And so yeah, and you know, just to see his strength through some downtime, and I would like to think vice versa, kept me going. Now, mind you, I was also lucky enough that he was my business partner too,
Right.
you know? And so when things in business, as they do, got really, really tough, I mean, I'll tell you, man, you know.
You guys were in it together. I mean.
Of course.
The good times and the bad.
Well, that's what I was about to say, man. It's not all one big fairy tale.
Sunshine.
I mean,
and
we've
rainbows.
everybody in this room has been in some pretty big ventures, I mean. And so there's good times, there's bad times.
Yep.
And there were times that, hey, can we pay rent this month on 3 of the venues? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
are we going to make
unbelievable.
payroll? All of that good stuff. And that happened very often.
You
So-
had almost like you looking in a mirror, quite literally, a partner, somebody there that
Of
you
course.
could, that like you said, that sounding board. So he was, you know, born into your life, obviously
Sure.
nine minutes before you.
Yeah.
But
And he holds it over my head every day.
I'm sure he does.
He's my quote unquote elder.
As you know, identical twins are fascinating to me. I've known a few of them in my life.
Yeah.
Ashley and Heather Smith, Julie and Diana Pickler.
Yeah.
You guys, obviously,
Sure.
Jason and Jacob Frick, and you know, there's always the one that's born first that's hangs it over you.
Sure.
Between you guys, what does it feel like to be the better looking twin?
Well, I'll tell you what, man.
I'm kidding, Chad.
I was about to say because, yeah, I know you would say the same thing to Chad if Chad
I would.
was sitting here.
As long as you weren't there.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. No, man, we, you know, it's funny because growing up, we both think we're always right, you
Yep.
know, and that caused some conflict, of
I'm sure
course.
sometimes you were. Sometimes you were able to justify why both of you were right, and your mom probably thought both of you were wrong.
Well, of course, of course.
Mama
but
Pam.
how that played into business, man, I'm so happy to say that once we matured and got a little bit older, it was actually, I loved watching his evolution. I would like to think that I progressed and evolved as well. As far as, you know, we're damn sure not the smartest men in the room. And sometimes you just need to shut the hell up and let your business partner, brother, whoever it is, speak their mind because most of the time he was right. I hate to
Sure.
admit that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, again, to have him as a sounding board, absolutely. He was an integral part of getting us to where our company, thank God, was attractive enough to be purchased by somebody. Jason Carrier is wildly intelligent, a brilliant guy, actually. By the way, he's an identical twin too, which
Oh,
is
that's
his
amazing.
wild. But his brother wasn't involved in our operation or
Still,
anything.
the odds of that are pretty
It's
slim.
small, but at least he could understand the dynamic. You
Sure.
know, when Chad and I were throwing punches in the office, and he's
Oh,
just
man.
over there doing his accounting. You know, like okay, it's just another Tuesday.
I'm not getting involved.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting involved with those two guys. Let them tear up the office. I don't care. True story, actually, once.
Oh,
but
gosh.
yeah, but anyway, it's just one of those things that having those guys around, and I'm going to use your term, in the dark moments.
Yep.
Just such solid human beings. Like, man, you know, yeah, I'm struggling, but life's still so good. I mean, cry me a river, you know? And let's get up. Okay, like dust yourself off. Let's go and let's get some work done.
Keeping that perspective is always important for me because I'm sitting with one of my favorite people in the world right now.
Thank you.
In my home at a studio that I was able to build myself with a dynamic team.
Yes, sir.
I've got my producer JB here, my graphic designer Paul here, videographer Chris is doing other things today, but I've intentionally surrounded myself with who I feel are the best. And you talk about being the dumbest in the room. I always want to be the dumbest in the room.
You and me
I
both.
want to surround myself with smart people
Sure.
and let them help me be the best version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there are those people that you kind of distance yourself from in order to be the best version of yourself.
Right.
And I just want to remark about this one more time from The Bachelor is I judge a lot of people by the company they keep.
Sure.
And I was fascinated by your willingness to be that first one that didn't choose to give the rose out in the very end. And I think you are unapologetically authentic. And there are, and just in my social circles, I feel like there are a few people that embody that concept as well as you do. And so, thank you for being who you are and being unapologetically authentic because it's bettered the world. It's made this world a better place. And I want to talk really quick about that third tenet of doing your part to leave the world better than you found it.
Right.
Because if you and Chad and Jason and Wes hadn't created Carmack and hadn't launched those bars, and I do want to touch base really quick on the my buddy Paul talked about life as contradictions, how there's some things that kind of like cognitively dissonant concepts of like you're a fitness guru, fitness guy, and you have bars that sell alcohol that might not be parallel to each other in the best ways, but you're also not forcing people to drink. You're not deceiving them in a way to come to your concepts and partake in that stuff. But you've always done your part to make the world better. I met you because Dogwood was doing a profit share with an organization that I was raising money for.
Sure.
Obviously, through Chad and Dylan's story of being with having type 1.
Of course.
And doing stuff for One Walk. I've seen you there multiple times.
Sure.
What drives you? What is it about you that is that inherent desire to make the world better? Why? You're successful professionally. You're a beautiful human being, and this comes from a lifetime of heterosexual tendencies. But you're a beautiful man.
I appreciate that, man.
And it does go down the Seinfeld realm. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're a beautiful human being. And my wife Kendall would say the same. I'm kind of glad that she's not here right now. But with Chad and Dylan giving back to the One Walk, they have a personal connection to it.
Of course.
You have your own personal struggles that you've been through, but yet every single time I see one of your concepts or I've seen the work that you do, there's always a component of bettering the world around you, of that pro-social engagement.
Sure.
Why?
Man, again, I appreciate the question. It's one of those things that I'm about to sound as cheesy as it gets, but I truly believe in the good of humanity. I really do. And life is much happier and brighter and lighter when you feel good about yourself and feel good about others around you. And I'm going to tell you, man, the success of the bars, the businesses, is something we could have never predicted. With that being said, more so than making, how can I say this, a huge profit, we genuinely wanted to be a good part of the community. I love Austin, man. I love it. I love
it's a great town.
This community.
Yep.
And so we got, I'm not going to say lucky because we worked for it, but we were fortunate with some revenue and things like that. I wanted to give back as much as we could, only because why not? It's that simple. I mean, it really is that simple. When I see people like you part of fundraisers and then to see people like you, what you've been through, and then to have the wherewithal, fortitude to give back instead of playing the victim card, I mean, why wouldn't we jump on board with that? You know what I mean? And bottom line is this: I just really wanted to be a good part of our community, and so I would see quite literally hundreds, if not thousands, of customers on a weekly basis come through our doors.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative of that. I really am.
Yeah.
And I don't want to
They could have
just
gone
take
anywhere, and yet they're in
That's
your
the thing.
establishment. Yep.
And so I don't want to just take. And life to me really is so much more than going to work, earning a paycheck, and coming home. And I want to feel good about the dude that looks back at me when I look in the mirror, And so anyway, sounds all shucks, but it's true. I love giving back to people.
I like corny, sunshiny type language.
Oh, I can be corny.
But you've said a few things quotes that I'm going to continue to use in my life. And one of them is that you have a daily approach to being positive.
Yes, sir.
Does that take work?
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because, at one point in my life, happiness was fleeting. We always think there's something better, something different, but there's not. Life is so good, man. And it took me 50 years to realize that. You just said you're surrounded by a great team. You're in this beautiful home. You're doing your podcast. You're selling your book, right? Man, I've done so and accomplished some things I never would have dreamed of. It's not even about that. I mean, it's more about I can eat every single day. I have a home that is pretty comfortable, and things like that. And man, I am so grateful. I am so grateful to just have a day that I enjoy. And so, but it still takes work to recognize that.
What does your day look like? Especially
These
now that you're in
days?
full employment. Tell me, walk me through a normal.
I'm almost embarrassed to tell you.
No, I want to hear it.
How many naps do you want me to actually admit to? I'm kidding.
How all of us, the listeners at home and the viewers watching this on YouTube, how many of you wish you took more naps when you were a kid? So,
Right.
I'm a big nap guy.
Let's go.
Love naps. But
Let's go.
Yeah, walk me through. You walk me through retirement level, Brad
Sure.
Womack. What do you do first thing in the morning? What does your day look like? And do me a favor and try and walk me through the 3 tenets of every day of Brad. Of what do you do to be positively selfish? Who are the people that you want to see, talk to? You told
like
me
this.
that right when you got here, you were on the phone with Chad.
Yes, sir.
And then
Always.
you're continuing to do your part to just be positive.
Sure.
And I always tell people, making the world better, leaving the world better than you found it, you don't have to raise millions of dollars for charity. You don't have to volunteer at a soup kitchen. Yes, those things are good.
Right.
But just being kind to fellow humans, holding doors open for people,
agree
picking
with
up
that.
trash off the ground, even if you weren't the one that put it there.
Sure.
Walk me through the Brad Womack Finding Good Day.
Man, I like this. And again, I'm going to be embarrassed because my day is so light these days. But
You've worked hard. You've earned it.
What is this camera on me? I'm looking for a job. Okay, I promise. I'm looking for a job. But positively selfish is training 100% gets done. And so I wake up very first thing in the morning. I train. I usually train twice a day.
Yep.
But so first thing in the morning, I go and train. That's the positively selfish. I do not waver. I mean, sure, I might have a meeting that just can't be rescheduled or anything, but if it takes waking up at 4 a.m., which I did this morning actually, and got in, went, worked out because I had this and I wanted to be ready, of course. Anyway, wake up, train, surrounding myself, the second tenet, with good people. I usually see my twin brother every single day. He grounds me.
Incredible.
And yeah, man. And he's busy these days. He got into real estate and everything with my little brother and his wife. And the dude is just an unstoppable force. And I kind of need to feed off of that,
Yep.
When I see him looking at me in disgust, when I tell him I'm about to nap at 1 p.m. But there's the nap part.
Yeah.
I'll train again. I do take a nap or two. But and then as far as putting out good in the world, I do, man. I had somebody and it was the best compliment I've ever received. Again, not a pat on the back, but someone at the gym I go to says, I just want to acknowledge that you seem to show up with gratitude every day.
Yep.
And I like acknowledging people that I see every day showing up for themselves. It's not about me. Because let's face it, it doesn't have to be the gym. It could be, and I've said this so many times, but punching the time clock at a factory. It could be doing whatever you need to do to make yourself feel better, right? And working, you need to pay your bills. Anyway, but I show up with a sense of gratitude, and I do work on that. I do tell myself, acknowledge so-and-so. You've seen this woman come in here doesn't say much. She's busting her butt. She looks like she's struggling first few workouts. Now look at her improve. Acknowledge her.
Love it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Acknowledge her.
absolutely. Absolutely.
The guy that might be on a weight loss journey, which I'm sure we've all been on, acknowledge him. He's making some progress and stuff like that. And so every day I try to show up with that. Every day, meaning, I'm stealing your term, try to make the world a better place simply by being kind. You know,
that's the root. That's the definition.
I agree, man.
I believe of what it means to leave the world better than you found it.
Sure.
Is we are inherently designed. It's in our DNA to be social, to share experiences with others.
Right.
And you don't know what's going on in someone else's life.
No, you do not. Man.
And the fact that you, and again, this is going to sound like blowing smoke, but in all your successes, your decades of hard work,
thanks.
Your discipline, you're waking up every morning, it shows in your physique.
Thank you.
All of those things that objectively someone can look at and be like, Brad's got it made. Brad's good looking, he's strong, he's young, he's athletic, he's got money, he's worked his ass off, he's just sold a business, all these things, and yet you still pay it forward. And that's why, for me, you're always going to be up there, the epitome of that finding good worldview. And
thank you, man.
I want to go into some lighthearted stuff here in a minute, but what do you think? Why are we here on this earth? What is our purpose? What is our meaning in life?
You know, that's a very deep question, obviously, and meaning of life. And I'm going to tell you, because that answer for me has changed and it's evolved. I'd like to say it's evolved over time. I'm beginning to try to become much more spiritual in my life, and I'm liking it. And I'm bringing this up for a reason, I promise you. I really, truly believe that we're here kind of as a collective group. Some people, certain seasons of their life, it could be a really bad season. They might need a little help from their fellow brother or sister, right? I think we are all here to help each other out. I truly, in my heart, believe that. And I will readily admit, man, there are times that I very intentionally surround myself with people like you and people like my brother. It could be a complete stranger that I just gravitate towards his or her light.
Yeah,
does that
absolutely.
make sense?
Yeah.
There are times when I will actively search out people that I know are struggling because I say, this person needs some help. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying I genuinely in my heart think we are here as a collective group to help each other. I really do.
We share that.
Okay. Oh, I know you do.
We share that. I grew up, in a religious climate, still have certain beliefs that I follow.
Yes, sir.
From religious doctrine that I've studied, but I've adopted this finding good worldview, this religion of that same thing. I don't think I've heard it so eloquently expressed before, that we are here as a shared collective at this time, at this juncture of technology and social media, and the world has never been easier to live in,
right?
But it's never been harder to live in because we invite so many people into our lives to look at what we're doing and to judge who we are. And unequivocally, you seem to not let that get to you. And it's just fascinating to me. One of my least favorite phrases in corporate ease, and really just in general, is at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Because it always follows like, at the end of the day, it's all about profits.
Oh, sure.
At the end of the day, it's all about relationships.
Sure.
And it's always this kind of like roll off the tongue, trying to sound smart kind of thing. I want to reintroduce a different version of that at the end of our life.
I like that. Yeah.
At the end of our life, what matters? At the end of our life, who are we? And in the book, I talk about this concept from a New York Times writer named David Brooks. He talks about eulogy virtues compared to resume virtues. So our resumes say that we can type 63 words a minute. Our resumes say that we're good working with people, which that may be a eulogy virtue as well. But I don't care about your pedigree, your background, whether or not you have degrees, whether or not you've had so and so years experience at a job. I care about how you treat people.
You and I both.
I care about were you kind to animals? Were you a good steward of the environment? give me some of those eulogy virtues. What do you want people to say at your memorial, 60 years from now when you're 112 years old?
Yeah. Let's go.
What do you want people to say about Brad Womack when all's said and done at the end of our life?
Excuse me. Again, I appreciate that question. I'll stop saying I appreciate that question.
No,
but
I want to know that these are provocative, questions for my guests, and you've answered every one to a T. So
well, thank you very much. At the end of my life, I'm going to be honest. I've never really thought of a legacy. I don't have children. That's by design, and I love children. I want to put that out there. I never wanted any of my own, and I had someone, I'm going to answer your question, I promise. I had someone ask me, what do you want your legacy to be? And my answer was, I've never really thought about it. And she was disgusted. I'm not kidding. It made it very well known. And it kind of threw me off, but hey, okay, we all, you're entitled to.
She was offended by that you hadn't thought about it?
I hadn't thought about a legacy and made no bones about it. It was a very interesting conversation. And this was a very intelligent human being I was talking to. But it did provoke thought. So kudos to her.
For you.
Absolutely it did. And so the reason I'm bringing up legacy is, I could care less about, businesses and accomplishments and things like that. What I want people to say, and I would hope, when I was at my grandfather's funeral, and I revered this man, he was very good to people. My dad's father. And whenever people were talking to him, I vividly remember thinking, I hope a fraction of what is said about this man is said about me.
Incredible.
And at the end of the day, bottom line, it was, and I'm summing it up in one very cliche statement, he'd give the shirt off his back to anybody. Anybody, meaning he cared as much about his fellow man as he did his self. Meaning he did. And whether that actually deterred his self-growth or improvement, he was always there to help others. You know what I mean? And so I really hope people say that about me, because I really do intentionally try.
You're doing a good job of it so far.
Well, man, I appreciate that. I mean, that's debatable. I mean, some people, I'm sure, are going to watch this and be like, that jerk. But, it's just one of those things. I really do. I just want to give back in a way of acknowledging other people. And hopefully that's just recognized.
There's a corny phrase that I do believe in, and it's the people that matter don't mind, and the people that mind don't matter.
Oh, man.
So anybody that
I need to
doesn't
steal
know,
your phrases.
Absolutely. Okay. I steal them from everyone. I can't even remember where I heard that one, but the people that mind don't matter, and the people that matter don't mind.
I like that.
So that's part of that second tenet, is surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
You've also said, don't threaten me with a good time.
Here we go.
And you know that this episode will be released sometime in late February, early March of 2025. But
yes, sir.
Right now we're recording this in January 8th. Right after the new year. And this weekend, I was supposed to run the Bandera 50K.
Yes, sir.
And because of inclement weather coming in, they've moved it. And just, I got sick in December, so training didn't go the way I wanted to. And you and I talk about patience and knowing when the time is to do something. But one of your fitness goals, I believe, is one of mine.
Okay.
And that's to run a 100-mile trail run.
Yes, sir.
Don't threaten you with a good time. Let's say we have a good time together.
Let's go.
And we train and we pick one and we do an ultra 100-miler. Doesn't have to be a date. Let's just say, let's pick one and train for one.
Mike, I'm going to tell you right now, man. One, I'd be honored to run with you. And only because, you know what? I'm not going to list the reasons. It's a little personal. I think so highly of you and what you've accomplished.
Thank you,
in spite of all your health challenges. The fact that you can even say, let's run 100 miles, I hope you acknowledge how profound that is, right? If you think you're going to ask me to run 100 miles and me say no to you, you're wrong.
All right.
And so.
Mark it down, viewers at home, JB, my producer, 100 miles, sometime in the next few years.
Okay.
Mike Thompson, Brad Womack, we're doing it.
Not next few years. We're doing it this year.
All right, I'm in.
And I got to tell you, there's a real good one. I'm just going to throw this out there, but it's not until November or December. But it's the Brazos Bend. It's close.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's flat.
I'm in. Yep, I'm doing. Yeah. Okay.
I'm telling you why I'm bringing. It's flat. I'm going to readily admit the reason I'm bringing this. I don't want to do Moab. I'm too old for this stuff, Mike.
I'm 5'3", 127 pounds right now. You're 6'1" and what?
228 pounds.
Yeah, and
man.
it's all muscle.
I'm old.
I don't envy you in that regard.
Hey, I don't want to pass this over. I give you my word. If you really want to do this, I will pay for your registration. It'd be my honor. I'll register us tomorrow at Brazos Bend 100. Let's do it.
All right,
okay,
I'm in. Let's do it, brother.
Oh man, is this podcast over? I don't want to get into any more BS.
All right, we're gonna do fun. We're gonna do fun stuff now. We're gonna do fun stuff. I promise.
I'm kidding. I could talk to you all week, buddy.
I want our listeners to know a little bit more about you on a much softer level.
Okay.
So, give me your favorite movie or your favorite actor.
Favorite movie, and it has my favorite actor in it, is There Will Be Blood.
I just watched it again for like the 6th time.
It's
like
amazing.
2 nights ago. Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes, sir.
Oh
Daniel
my
Day-Lewis is best actor.
My name is Daniel Plainview.
He is so good. He's so good. And you know, that movie, it has so many stories within it, you know, and greed and religion.
Yep.
Anyway, and that movie, for so many reasons, is by far my favorite. I watch it almost every Christmas. And so I've seen it probably at this point 10 or 11 times.
I kid you not. 2 nights ago, I just watched it again.
Oh,
It was on one of the streaming apps that we have, and I was like, "Oh, I love that movie. I'm going to watch that again." Yeah. And you're right, and it has a lot of stuff that's relevant still to today. I mean, I think it's an accurate portrayal of being an oil man.
Of course.
And you know, here in Texas, we are in that oil and gas industry, and obviously there's like you said, the religious component, the social component, the greed component.
Of course.
Amazing movie, and it doesn't surprise me that he's your favorite. Favorite song or favorite type of music?
Country music, hands down.
Always.
I mean, look at me. I look like a redneck, buddy.
No, you like whenever you came on The Bachelor, I remember being like, he's a good old boy. I want to know that guy. And that's my dad always used to say, never wear out your welcome. Yeah. And you could never do that for me.
Well, thank you, man.
So country music doesn't surprise me at all. Favorite type of cuisine or favorite dish?
Steak, hands down. I'm a red meat guy, man. And you mentioned all this training and stuff.
Yep.
Buddy, I am not a can of tuna fish guy. I'm not. I mean, let us eat, okay?
Meat and potatoes.
If we earned it, it's meat and potatoes, and let's go.
My wife, I love you, Kendall, is vegan, and I eat mostly pescatarian now, but I can't deny the deliciousness of a perfectly cooked steak.
Well, there's health benefits to the way you eat, no doubt about
Absolutely.
it. And your wife knows better than both of us combined. Yep. And so I'd follow her lead, not mine.
Well, it's one thing that I miss for sure. All right, ice cream.
Oh, peppermint. Now, let me tell you why. I know that's a strange flavor.
You and Kendall. No, she's obsessed with peppermint.
Let's go, Kendall. Man, when my grandmother was still around, she would make homemade peppermint ice cream.
Isn't that the best?
To the point she would boil down the peppermints in water. I'm not kidding. And
you have that pure extract.
Yes,
man.
My God. And you'd get the little crunches, and it's just synonymous with Christmas and her home and my mom, my grandmother, my brothers, and all of it's just indulging.
Homemade ice cream from the grandparents. You just can't top it.
No, you cannot.
It's amazing. Favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete would have to be Tom Brady. And let me tell you why. I think he's a good dude, and he's as talented as can be. We all know the story about not getting drafted first. We all know all of that.
Yeah.
What he's done in business afterwards. And I know it's really easy to hate the guy. I am not one of those guys. He's accomplished so much and seems to maintain a nice guy persona. And actually, no, a nice guy disposition. It's not a persona at all.
A persona can be something that you fabricate, whereas his disposition is authentic.
Exactly.
Like you.
I appreciate that. So
I've never met Tom. Tom, if you're listening or if you come across one of these clips, we'd love to have you on the podcast. But
I'll get out of this chair right now if that dude shows up.
We'll do a 100-mile race with him.
There you go.
He is also unapologetically Tom.
Yeah, well, good.
And I think as much as the vitriol, the hatred that's aimed toward him a lot of it is probably, I could say more than likely, jealousy driven, envy driven.
Of course.
When people find success and become the best version of themselves, for some reason the instinct is to just judge them in whatever way they can negatively.
Sir.
So
of course.
I love that because you and Tom have, to me, a lot of similarities in your discipline and your work ethic.
Well,
And then, of course, you're a good guy, not persona, but disposition.
Well, thank you, man.
So
I'll take that thank you very much.
You share that in spades. The person in history that you'd like to meet, either dead or alive.
This is a strange one, man. It's Jim Morrison.
That's a great one.
Well, I say strange only because the guy's brain, it would, to me anyway, is fascinating to me, and a huge fan of his message, which it was all over the place.
I wish they would do a biopic,
man.
like how they've done with Walk the Line with Johnny Cash.
They did a movie, The Doors.
Of course.
Val Kilmer actually sang some of those songs.
He did. I remember that. But I want a kind of there's the Great Unknown, or what's the new Bob Dylan pick with Timothy Chalamet right now. I want them to do one like that on Jim Morrison. I think that would be a hit. Yeah.
I would love it. I would love to just sit, because I don't think you could have a conversation with a dude. Yep. I think I would just sit in the corner of the room
and just listen
while he's on one, and let him write some songs and just, watch the Lizard King himself do whatever weirdness he is. But to me, that guy is a fascinating human being.
Yep.
Just the depths of his mind.
You are too, my friend.
Thank you, Mike.
I've loved chatting with you today. It's obvious that in terms of the finding good way of life, you embody those three tenets, like I said.
Thank you.
Better than anyone. You're positively selfish by getting up and training no matter what. That is your non-negotiable. It shows. It shows in your physique. It shows in your disposition and your awareness of life and how amazing this life is. You've been surrounded by and continue to surround yourself with good people.
Thank you.
Like Chad, like Wes, like Jason, but the rest of your social circles, anybody that I've met that I've been introduced to by you, I've also felt the same. I hold them in very high regard.
Thank you.
And you 100% do your part to leave this world a better place. You do both things. Not only do you engage in the philanthropic endeavors of sharing your business successes through profit shares and donating to charity, but that kindness, that relentless kindness that you share with the world is so important. And I think truly it is the part that's missing in most people where they're trying to find meaning and purpose in life is they haven't yet discovered that sustainable energy that comes from giving back to others.
Yeah, man.
And you do that better than anybody I've ever met. So thank you so much for being here on the podcast, the Finding Good podcast today. I'm thrilled that we're going to be doing a 100-miler together. Let's do it for real. Let's sign up. Brazos Bend, end of this year, 2025. Listeners and viewers at home, mark it and watch the content that we bring from this, because it will be a magical time. Brad, thanks for being here.
A true pleasure. Thank you, man.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Finding Good podcast. My name is Mike Thompson. We hope you join us next time. As always, keep finding good.